Welcome to the President's Podcast with the Black Nurses Association of Greater St. Louis. You are listening live to your host, Dr. Leonora Muhammad, President of the BNA STL.
And I'm your co-host, Mia Glover, Vice President of Black Nurses Association of Greater St. Louis.
And we got a special co-host today, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dawn Patrick. I am a nurse practitioner. I'm also a proud member of the Black Nurses Association and just happen to be the treasurer.
Yeah, she makes sure our coins is right. She keep us in check. So thank you, Dawn, for joining us today. So in today's session, which we have entitled is session 2.4, My Mental Wellbeing, we are recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month. And also we got to shout out all of our wonderful nurses around the city, around the world, all over, because it is also Nurses Month 2022. So this is a very, very special episode. I'm representing, I got my little nurse shirt on. Got this. Okay. All right. Representing. So to help us in our discussion today, I got two very special people that are very special to me and that are experts in their field. First, we have Mr. Kenneth J. McCain. He is the group administrator of KM Group. So let me read his bio. I probably don't even need this paper because we have worked together many years, and I know all about him, but I'll read it for you guys today. So as a practicing clinician, Mr. McCain specializes in court-directed treatment and care, the treatment of aggressive behavior and thoughts of self-harm for more than 10 years in Missouri and Illinois. He focuses on men's health issues, women's health issues, relationship, adjustment disorders, anxiety, and depression. Ken has published many works, and we'll get to talking all about those a little bit later. He is also routinely advises his clients on healthcare systems and strategies and community practices. In the spring of 2014, Ken was awarded the Midwestern Region Health Administrator of the Year Award with his work in the city of St. Louis. He currently manages a team of healthcare professionals dedicated to patient education and promotion of healthy lifestyles. He worked under the fabulous Dr. Siddiqui in St. Louis, Missouri, and received his degrees from Northwest Missouri State and Webster University in St. Louis. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Secondly, I have my fearless visionary sister, Miss Ramona Jones. She is a lifelong learner who enjoys helping others to grow and succeed. As a senior user experience designer and content thought leader, she combines her knack for writing, and she is a very, very good writer, and love for creating with technology to collaborate and advocate for inclusive user experiences. Her superpowers include organizational development practitioner and a wise common encourager. Absolutely. She is also a mental well-being and inner healing advocate, and she is the author of 2 books, along with a 3rd book, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Fearless Visionaries, and we talk about pain to triumph stories as part of our mission to restore hope and heal individuals, families, and communities. So welcome to the show, Miss Ramona.
Glad to be here.
All right, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have a Miss Sabrina Davis, and let me read her bio. She is the founder and CEO of WalkNFaith Substance Abuse and Mental Health Treatment Center, Purpose Kids, and Faith Home Care, LLC. Sabrina is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner with over 20 years of experience in community health, mental health, and substance abuse treatment. She holds a master's degree in executive leadership and management. Her commitment to advocacy for individuals diagnosed with opiate use disorder has led her to open WalkNFaith, and is one of the highest crime and impoverished communities in the city of St. Louis. To ensure individuals in rural and low-income communities have access to quality substance abuse and mental health treatment, she has acquired the only substance abuse mobile clinic van. Oh, I want to hear more about that in the St. Louis city. She has become a voice of those who are suffering from health and racial disparities. So thank you, Miss Sabrina, for joining us.
Yay.
Whew, y'all are background bios. I mean, we got a lot to dig into today, so let's get right into it. First of all, It is the month of May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and the American Nurses Association dedicated this month as Nurses Month 2022. So the theme for this year is we make a difference, and we absolutely do, because if we don't tell everybody all the awesome work that we do, nobody ain't gonna listen. So we want to celebrate our nurses this month. So kind of what the American Nurses Association did was kind of break down each week of the month, and it's a different theme. So this week happens to be self-care week. And that's why we're talking about this today, because you know, us as nurses, we really are focused on taking care of everybody in the community, and also within our families. And sometimes we forget to focus on ourselves. So that's what I want to dig into today, and really focus on, you know, how do we address self-care issues, you know, with us and the patients that we serve. So this happened to be such a great week to talk about this. So Ken, I'm gonna start with you. In your practice, you focus on men and women health issues, relationship issues like I described earlier, anxiety, depression. We've been going through COVID, so we know some of us, you know, even myself, you know, kind of went into a state of being in the house all the time and can't do what I wanted to do. And so a lot of us as professionals, we suffer from depression, or, you know, start to get anxious when we can't do what we typically do every single day. And I'm sure you have many different patients with a magnitude of different backgrounds. So how can the everyday professional manage stress from their jobs and their family life? What can they do?
Well, once again, thank you again for even having this discussion. The first thing is to understand that it's okay to say that we're overwhelmed. You know, this last couple of years has been a lot on a lot of people. You know, we've been under a lot of stress, and it's okay. It's okay that sometimes, especially as professionals, we think that we have to be, you know, Superwoman or Superman, and we kind of continue to go through our day and our daily professions as if we don't have feelings. We do, and we do get overwhelmed. And there are lots of resources out there that are available for a lot of our clinicians and professionals. One, starting with their organization that they work for. You know, one, they could look at their Employment Assistance Program, so EAP. After EAP, they can look at their individual insurance plans, you know, and those are some resources that they can get started, because some people don't know how to reach out to mental health. EAP is also always a good start. And with EAP, their provider, their employer plans usually start with, you know, 3 to 12 sessions, and they'll kind of set up an appointment for them. And after those initial visits, then they can be referred to another clinician, or may even stay with the current clinician that they're with.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people, you know, most jobs do have EAP programs, you know, that employees can tap into. But how do you even get folks to even want to seek the help? Because to us as professionals, sometimes we might be embarrassed to say, hey, we're a nurse, you know, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to feel like the person that's got it all together, and that I know, you know, I don't want anybody to know that I got problems too. So how do we try to get the people out of that type of mind frame?
You know, one thing definitely in our communities is important for us to tell our stories. And when we see that our loved ones and family and friends and mentors, that they struggle from time to time with different things, whether it be grief, depression, anxiety, job transition. And when they see, hey, I reached out to this professional and they were able to help me through or navigate through this difficult time in my life, then they'll step back and say, oh, well, reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It's not actually a sign of strength, because we have to know, where do we go get the help that we need?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could definitely piggyback off that, Mr. McCain. You are absolutely correct, because people, if you look at just the people on this call, I don't mean to call everybody out, But normally the people that look like they got it all together, they normally are the ones that are struggling the most and need the help. There was a time in my life where I had been through trauma after trauma after trauma, and I was trying to hold it all together, and it like the bottom fell out. And I reached out to EAP, but I had that same first question was, where is this information going? Because I am high in my community.
Yeah, exactly.
So who all got access to what I'm about to tell you? Like, and so after understanding that, absolutely, it would be kept confidential, and, you are allotted, time and space to just, vent and get through things got a lot better. So yeah, I definitely would appreciate both of those things, that you got to reach out, and it's okay to be, seen as somebody who needs help.
Yeah. And, working, in the field that I am and being a manager, I've told people about EAP a million times. I never used it myself until COVID hit, and I had this baby, and it was postpartum depression that kind of lingers on. And then you get hit with the pandemic at the same time. And then you at work, it's stress of trying to manage the nursing care and, making sure the nurses get what they have. I kind of fell into a little depression. I had to reach out and speak to EAP. I had told people about it many, many years, but never accessed it myself. But it's absolutely, definitely a wonderful resource that people need to know about, and that they can use, for their own needs. So yeah, it doesn't stop with just being a professional. I mean, anybody can go through things. We are all human. We all go through things. So we got to have that avenue and resource and that strength, like you said, Mr. McCain, to reach out and get help.
And I'd like to add to the EAP is a great resource, but for those people who cannot or may not have a position or work, or their company doesn't offer EAP services, we have a great behavioral health response. Is a network here in St. Louis that provides crisis support, telephone counseling, mental health resources, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well, for anyone who may also be struggling or in need in that moment. The beauty about behavioral health responses that they can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for those services, or at least access to resources. But as we, have discussed, it's very hard for us to share our stories, and we may feel embarrassed, scared, alone in our situations. But one of the reasons I invited Sabrina on this call is because there's a lot of stigma around mental health, but also substance abuse, which really falls within the nursing profession or the medical profession under mental health. And so, Sabrina, you want to tell us a little bit about WalkNFaith Ministries and then what you do? And then my second question would be to Ken, and how do we, just talk a little bit about the challenges of providing services to our population, especially Black men. So I think after Sabrina kind of goes over our substance abuse, one of the things that I find as a MAT provider is that the basis for substance abuse really stems from our mental health issues, as you stated, depression, anxiety, PTSD and things like that. So I'm going to pause and I'll let Sabrina talk, and then maybe Mr. Ken, if you can maybe talk on the challenges that we see in counseling.
Absolutely, Dawn. And first, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Muhammad and Mia and Dawn and Ramona and Kenneth. Thank you for having me on. Again, like you said, May is the month for mental health awareness. And when you think of that, you think of a lot of people who are dealing with trauma. Like Dr. Muhammad said, when moms deal with, post-traumatic, they may deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, or they may even deal with, they've had a child and now, what can I do? Because now I'm a working mom, I need to go back to work. Now, what's going to happen with me going back to work? But like Dawn said, one of the biggest things that we looked at with WalkNFaith, and just to digress a little bit, I'm a psych mental health nurse practitioner. Dawn and I had the pleasure of working with Dawn at one of the largest substance abuse treatment centers in St. Louis. And one of the reasons why my husband and I looked at how we can open our own substance abuse treatment center was because of the disparities we saw. when you look at some of these substance abuse treatment centers in Troy, St. Charles, Iron County, when you think about African Americans, they may not have access to these traditional substance abuse treatment centers. And again, when you think about our community, you think of so much of the stigma that goes around when you think of Black Americans. And just like Dawn said, some of us we have family members that we don't really say they have a mental illness. We may say, you know how they are, you know, or they in the closet somewhere, we got them in the back room, you know, and we know that it's something else going on with that person. However, when you think of Black Americans that look like you and me, the stigma, first of all, is there because they're family members and in the community. And second is there because we don't really see providers that look like me, you, Dr. Muhammad, Dawn, others that we feel we are okay to go and talk to. And just like Mia said, you go to a substance abuse treatment center or even a mental health center and you see a lot of faces that don't look like you, it is some mistrust there. And so for us, our biggest thing was how can we provide access not only to mental health, but to substance abuse? Because again, we know that all of these are combined in one. When you think about trauma, you think about African Americans, we deal with trauma all the time because we deal with poverty, we deal with, you know, gun violence, everything that goes on in our community. Now, some of these things that goes on in our communities, others think, oh, wow, what's going on? But to us, we live through it every day.
It's just like an everyday occurrence. This is what we deal with, and we just got to be strong and deal with it.
Right. And that's the part where Dr. Muhammad just said, we have to be strong and deal with it. And us as African American, and I'm not trying to knock you, Ken, but women, we really take on so much of dealing with, we just have to be a strong woman. We really do take on that superwoman look, Ken, we do. You know, we have to be the best mom, the best wife. We have to go hard in our jobs. And then on top of that, we have kids, and then we have to look pretty on, you know.
Oh, and you definitely got to be soft. Don't be too hard. Don't be too hard.
You can't be the angry woman, but you still have to be the assertive woman. And so, you know, with that, you look at so many different pressures when it comes to African Americans. And then especially, I say women, but then I'm not going to leave you out, men, because our men are, you know, they're being locked up every day when you look at our communities. And so then when we were looking at what's going on at, and I don't want to name other treatment centers, but other treatment centers in St. Louis or St. Louis County, we looked at the admission rate for African Americans. And Dawn and I, we would see some individuals that look like us that may not have that opportunity to come back for a second chance, while others were returning over and over and over again. And so with that, what we feel and what I felt was, what if we have a substance abuse treatment center in the heart of North St. Louis? If we have a mobile van where, for instance, COVID started and COVID ramped up everything. And really for us, what COVID did was just shine the light on what was already going on in Black communities anyway. And so we said, hey, you can't come out if you're in a low income development. So why not we bring this van to you and we provide access to mental health treatment, to substance abuse, medications, and it's a provider that looks like you. And so that mistrust that we feel, and we know we feel it, even though we're providers, we feel it. When we go to a place and it's a lot of people that don't look like us, we have to put on that professional, you know, hat, and we have to, you know, assimilate to them. But why can't we have a quality substance abuse mental health treatment center that our people that look like us, Brown and Black communities, feel okay, and they feel like, hey, I do want to get help. And that was really what we birthed and what was driven by what we see every day in our communities. And I'm trying to go back to Dawn, your question, because I kind of went everywhere
No, I
from
think
there.
you answered it perfectly, honestly. That's great.
Yeah, and just to touch on something that you said, Sabrina, you know, for men are taught to be strong. Don't cry. You know, I remember back, you know, when I was younger, I would see the older men punching somebody in the chest, like, toughen up, toughen up. You're like, don't be soft, and you can't show your emotion. And you were seen as weak if you did that. And the elders would, you know, try to correct that as much as they can. So that's one thing that I think the men, and I'll let you touch on that, Ken, in a minute, but also our people are getting locked up versus getting put in treatment programs, right? Because we work in corrections. So we see a lot of the patient population that come into the jail setting have substance use disorder, and or, you know, coming in through the drug courts, you know, and being a participant in the drug courts, which we have some history with too, as working with those patients in the St. Louis City Jail. So Ken, I'll let you touch a little bit about that from a male perspective, and what you see with our young boys growing up, and then also those folks being incarcerated.
I think both Dr. Muhammad and Sabrina, you know, you're very right. When, you know, historically we say, you know, to our boys, our young boys, to toughen up and to kind of, you know, not show our feelings. And a lot of times what I use the analogy, if I take a soda bottle and I shake it up, and I shake it up, 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 well, eventually it's going to happen.
It's going to explode.
It's going to explode. But the thing that you don't control is when or where. And a lot of times when we tell our young boys, or even our young girls too, not to show emotions, what happens as they get older, they're not comfortable with their emotions. They don't know how to feel. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to grieve. They don't know how to cry. They don't know how to be happy. And so, you know, what really we're doing is we create ticking time bombs, and we send them out into our community. When with the stigma, one of the things that I'm happy, and I think that it is because I'm a man of color, is I get a lot, you know, a good portion of my profession, my practice is men, you know, and I think that when they come, you know, they're like, oh my goodness, you look like me. You know my story. You've been where I've been. And they're able to unwind because there's no stigma. It's not, you know, I'm not passing judgment on them or kind of their story, where they've come from. A lot of them start by, you know, they may come with their significant other, maybe a girlfriend or a wife or someone. That's how they initially kind of come to counseling, because historically we didn't trust mental health, you know, or even in our community, we went to our clergy person, our pastor, priest, or whoever. So we weren't comfortable going to a stranger and kind of opening up. I think, as Don or someone said, where does this information, I think it was Mia, where did this information go? It's like, no, your information isn't going anywhere. It's being, your information is your information. And once they come in and they feel comfortable and they're like, oh my goodness, so this is confidential? And I can open myself up and show that I don't have it. I don't have to have it together. I don't have to have all the answers. And it's okay. Then you see them like they completely open and kick their feet up on the couch, which is okay. It's there for them.
Yeah.
And so I think when we're talking about stigma, a lot of times I think we do have those stigmas there. And so when our family members, especially for our loved ones and family members, is not to discourage when someone says that they're struggling in some area, when they're struggling with substance abuse, because a lot of times, and I'm sure that Sabrina understands, that we use coping strategies to try and cope for those traumas, you know, and they've been around forever. You know, people start drinking or start, you know, using drugs to mask whatever they're feeling. And so once you get done with or take the drugs or drinking away, the trauma is still there. And now they have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that as our family members, may say, hey, we're certain, I think someone said, they're in the back room or wherever, as they're struggling with it, say it's okay. And maybe even it's okay to go with them. Because I've had, people come by proxy. They bring one family member and then the other family members come. That kind of was the driver.
Yeah. They look,
Okay.
they send one person in, see if it's all right, y'all. If it's good,
And then all of them come.
everybody else coming.
And that's okay. That's what it's there for them.
Yeah.
I often use the analogy like just peeling back the layer of an onion. I always tell them, think about when, we're cooking and we have an onion, it makes us cry, but we peel that layer. And as we peel the layer of our lives back, especially when they're in the early beginnings of substance abuse treatment, we call it medication assisted treatment, you see a change and a shift in them. And it's almost like they're not comfortable clean because they do have to really face what got them started on the drug use in the first place. What are the issues? What's the depression? What's the anxiety? What's the PTSD? What's the undiagnosed bipolar or schizophrenia diagnoses that you have or have not had that are affecting, or was that became the driving force for your use? And so they look at me, and they're like, how'd you know that? And then as Sabrina, and we all can share, from personal experiences because we've lived it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We've dealt with it on a different basis, whether personally, professionally, we've gone through it ourselves, or we know someone very close to us who have had very similar stories. So let's shift a little bit because we haven't let Miss Ramona talk about how we unveil. How do we unlift the veil? Let's get into the book, and you and Dr. Muhammad can maybe talk a little bit about that briefly so we can show our listeners how we move forward in this process.
There we go. Tear the veil.
I have to have my blur on, but yeah, it's very interesting that being strong women, and I'm just going to come from that perspective, we don't really think that we are abused because we're handling it. You throw something at me, I'm going to take it. I may dodge it this way, dodge it that way, or hit me with your best shot. I'm going to, take a lick and keep on ticking. We have all of these adages and sayings, that we come up with that becomes part of, how we go through life. But then when you get to the question of why is my life falling apart now? And I'm also understanding, realizing that when you're younger, they say children are resilient, but everybody has a breaking point. But when you're younger and you have less stresses and less things, you can kind of carry more and take on more. But the older you get, it starts to wear down on you and tear you down. So things start to kind of come out. And Dr. Kenneth talked about, when you shake up that soda bottle, you don't know when it's going to pop. It's kind of like that last straw that broke the camel's back. Mm-hmm. It's that last thing that caused you to kind of spiral, or either you look around and you see some things in your life that you don't like clutter, for instance. Just like, I used to be so neat, why do I have so much clutter in my life? Or I'm always on this hamster's wheel. I'm running, but it's like I'm not getting anything done. Where's my capacity? Because we keep on giving out and keep running and not stopping to really think about what we're going through. We're running away and running to at the same time. We're putting our feet on the gas and on the brake at the same time, going through life. And at some point, it's just gonna come to that screeching halt where you're like, I'm in a situation here. I need some help.
Do you know me, Miss Ramona? No. Just sum my whole life up in 2 minutes. No.
She is good at that, I'm telling you.
And so it's when I journal a lot, and they say, writing is healing. So I've always been journaling, since the teenager, writing poetry. It was just kind of something that, came to me. So a lot of my thoughts, I put in words. But in telling my story, it wasn't until we met Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock on this journey of Tear the Veil that we had to write about our stories. And of course, that first layer, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to tell this little piece. And she's a psych nurse practitioner as well. And so she was like, that's not the story. Keep on going. Keep on writing. So it's like, do I really want this out in the world? Or I'm having to think about things in a new way. But if this is going to help somebody else, then let me do it. But in essence, you're really helping yourself. When you turn the veil to tell that story. And then in the way that you tell the story, I've learned that you first write the story. Because my first book, I was going through a post, I call it PIST, P-I-S-T, post-infidelity stress disorder. And so just the years and years of going, through this and thinking things going to be okay. And you're praying it out, praying it through, being a Christian too. There are some things that go with, stigmas even in the church. You're supposed to be strong and, you can't really tell everybody all your business because people gossip and talk. So who do you go to? And then if you're always that person that people go to, a person they can hold water, that everybody come to, then you look around, well, I don't have anybody to go to. Or either you say, I'm good, until you're not good. And so when you start telling that story and peeling it back, you first just get it out. Just write it out. Just tell it like you see it. And then you're standing in the truth of it. But then you have to go back and edit it. See it from a different perspective. See it from that a trauma lens. Like the person who's hurting me, what was hurting them? What was my role in that hurt in the story? Let me take myself out of it and be like the narrator in it. So now I can tell the nuances and I can shift the lens and the camera and take these different views of it and I can write it out. And now I can stand on top of that story without standing in it and it standing on top of me or on top of me. I can come out triumphant. I can get the victory in it because I can see the hope. I can see my resilience in it, but I can also see how I open that door for the trauma to continue. So now I'm standing on my story. I'm turning the veil and I'm opening up that layer so that somebody else peep into my life and know that it's going to help somebody else.
It sounds very therapeutic. It sounds like you definitely have used that to help you move forward. Ken, you are also author of several publications, right? Your latest book entitled Investing in a Healthy Relationship, Questions to Ask Before Reaching the Altar, right? So tell us what encouraged you to reach to write about that topic. We kind of heard why Ramona's push was toward her topic. Now, what was your driver?
Yeah, and a couple years before COVID, I just started I do couples counseling and premarital counseling. And I started getting more and more calls for premarital counseling, which is definitely a good thing. And I wholeheartedly advocate for it. And they started asking questions too. I started seeing the same questions coming up. One, the areas where couples struggle, particularly in the first couple of years of marriage.
Baby, year 3 and year 7. Baby.
And so, and a lot of it hinges on the areas where I found most couples struggle is one, why are we together? What's the reason, the utility of it? There's something that you do for me, there's something I do for you. If you don't know why your spouse has you, how are you ever going to keep them happy? You'll spend a whole lot of energy trying, but all of them amount to a stabbing in the dark. Sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. And vice versa. If your spouse doesn't know why you have them, how do they ever plan to keep you happy? They'll spend a lot of energy trying. 2, communication. I'm not worried about communication when times are good. You can handle that yourself. How do we talk when we're not getting our way? Do we yell? Are we condescending? You know, what does that look like? Do we belittle the person? 3, expectations. We all have expectations. I have expectations of you. You have expectations of me. No one here is a mind reader. So we have to talk about them and where did they come from? They came from somewhere. 4, family systems. It's kind of like a family tree. I think Don said something about, one of the things we have to understand is what's in that family tree. You ever hear the old adage, the apple doesn't fall from the tree? It's actually true. And so some of the things we find that we may struggle with, other people in our family struggle with it too. And sometimes I think like, I forget if someone said, sometimes in families, there are hidden secrets. They're secrets. So we just sweep it under the rug and say, oh, we're not going to talk about that. But if my family member or loved one is dealing with the same thing I may be dealing with, whether it be alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, chasing women, chasing men, doesn't matter. I need to know, what did you do to overcome that struggle? You don't need to recreate the wheel and figure out what they did. 5, child rearing. Do we want to have children? How many children do we want to have? You were raised a certain type of way. I was raised a certain type of way. Once we put those things together, then you start seeing interactions. 6, money. What is money? How is money made? How is money spent? Is my money my money?
Right.
What is appropriate uses of money? 7, sex and intimacy. What is sex? What is intimacy? How do I approach myself as a sexual person? Do I engage in sex to get connectivity with my spouse or to get love? Those are the areas that I found in the first number of years people struggle with. And so in premarital counseling, those are the areas we need to talk about and say, hey, let's get an understanding of how we're approaching our relationship and who am I marrying? Because you're not marrying yourself. They're a living, breathing person full of ideas and thoughts, hopes and dreams. And if we can't see it, if we don't see it, then maybe we're not ready for marriage.
First of all, Ken, we need to go back to 2011. I needed this book in 2011. Okay. Number 3, let's hit on that. Expectations. Do I expect that sock to be put in the hamper or will it be on the floor, right?
You gotta set that expectation real low.
Gotta
keep it low. You'll stay happy. Keep that expectation real low.
Book,
That's it.
2011. Okay.
Keep it low. Keep it low. Keep it real low.
Back. Look, I'm like, do over. I got the book now. So it's on my dresser. No, thank you, Ken. Yeah, absolutely. I think we absolutely can benefit from that book. And you talked a little bit about a couple of things. And I don't know if you heard of this, adverse childhood experiences, right? I know Ramona before, because we've actually been to some organizations in the community to learn more about how to be trauma informed and look at, why folks are going through things, not to really ask the question why, but ask what happened to you, in your trauma. So Ramona, you want to talk a little bit about, how can we look at some of those things in terms of not, kind of pointing the finger at people and say, well, why'd you do this to me? But what really happened in your life? Because that's part of telling your story and being able to identify that we do go through things that in childhood that we carry on through life to when we become adults. Can you touch a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, there are a lot of adverse childhood experiences that we go through. And Alive and Well Communities right here in St. Louis is a great organization that teaches those classes. They do have a free one. And then I just went through a Train the Trainer one, so I can start actually training on this topic as well. And just to really to learn more about it, because I didn't really understand, trauma growing up. Bad things happen, but you don't think about like all the levels of trauma. There's community trauma. There could be like an accident, pandemic.
Yeah, we all
It's like
traumatized.
it's like a worldwide trauma. Everybody is participating in this trauma. Then you have those household experiences, that you grow up with, whether it's molestation or rape or verbal abuse, physical abuse, seeing, maybe your parents, fight, whatever it is, whatever traumatized you, somebody touching you, the wrong way. There are a lot of traumas, that are part of that root. And then even coming to this on the spiritual side, because I'm also participating in Forgiven and Free Ministries, where it's a deliverance ministry, not like the spooky kind of stuff, but we actually talk about, generational curses or experiences or things. What was going on in your family tree? What was going on in your house? What kind of inner vows did you make? And that's where we get into like the inner healing, because sometimes when you go through trauma, you see trauma, you make an inner vow, like I'll never worry about, I'm going to always take care of myself. I'm never going to let somebody take care of me or be vulnerable to somebody, and so we make that vow even as children sometimes. And then when we get in life and realize, because I mean, I've made a vow like that, like I can't depend on that person, so I'm gonna have to, just depend on me. And so that makes it very hard to even to get help, to reach out for help, because you're like, I can't depend on anybody, I can't trust anybody. And so those traumas are the foundational, thing. So the fruit on the tree is based on what was in the soil, what's in the environment, what's in the community, what experiences that I have. So when someone is acting out or behaving in a certain way, the first thing that we do, and I'm just speaking about myself, I can't talk about anybody else, we want to be self-protecting, because if you come at me, the first thing I'm going to do is the trauma informed ideas go out the window. It's like, you coming at me. Oh no. And
Yeah.
then I'm gonna come back. But then it's like, but I'm kind of a calm person. So I tend to, respond in a calm way, or stuffing, or, but it's really realizing that the person is behaving in a certain way. But if we can look at it with a lens of empathy, so what are they feeling right now? What are they thinking? um, what happened to them? What are they saying? What's the root of that? There's a person here behind all of this stuff that they're doing and coming out, spewing out, or what's targeted toward me. There's a person there. So if I can step outside of myself for a minute and not make it about me, but to say, okay, there's another person on the other side of this hurt or this situation. What happened to them? What made them respond the way that they're responding? And with that empathy, we can begin to, have that conversation. And we will then begin to realize, oh, so this person did go through some stuff. And so how do we heal as a community too? So if everybody is informed about, trauma and how it happens and the lingering effects, and how we, make these inner vows in childhood, and the scars and things that we wear or we cover up, and then eventually it comes out in certain ways. If we can just have that empathy and have that heart toward another person, then we can create that center of trust. Because if you don't trust a person, as everybody was saying, people, we don't trust, so if I don't trust you, then I'm not going to be able to open up. But maybe little by little, I may get a layer off here, a layer off there. But trauma is everywhere. It's all around us. I don't think there's any person on the planet who has not experienced some form of trauma, but how we cope depends on how we were maybe informed, or how we were taught to deal with our feelings or emotions, or some people had other resources that were available to them, while other people did not. And some people just have different ways of, coping than other people. So it's really teaching people how to have healthy coping outlets and mechanisms, and how to do self-care, and how to really just, personally reflect on yourselves and look back into that family tree. What was happening in my life? What inner vows did I make? What do I need to go back and, dig up and handle and deal with? What did I see in my family and my generations, past, that I can, stop it right here and then start turning things around for the next generation to come.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered the question.
It did perfectly. And then it leads me into saying that trauma also affects health. So for my MPs on here, Mia, Dawn, Sabrina, you seeing it, you working in the community, right? So those people are coming into your clinics with substance use disorder because they're trying to cope with the trauma that they are going through. So talk a little bit about what you guys do in your work life, to help these individuals that are suffering through substance use disorder. You to bring it with the van coming around, what kind of resources they can tap into. You at Affinia doing. And Mia, talk a little bit from a health perspective, how this trauma, how this, affects and gets people into using substances.
Right.
So first of all, some of our clients, and just to touch on what Ramona and Kenneth said, we deal with a lot of clients who have trauma, obviously. And we have a partnership with the federal government, U.S. Probation and Parole. And so our clients are ex-offenders. And when people hear ex-offenders, they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But these are clients that are 18, 19, 20 that may have made one or two mistakes, a gun charge or felony, marijuana, something, possession of drugs. And instead of them having 3 years, 4 years being incarcerated, they come through our program and it reduces the number of years they're on supervision. And so, like you said, there is trauma. When we first start to engage with these individuals, a lot of times they tell their stories and they can't even quite get where the mistake was, what happened. And a lot of these young guys, they may be 23 and they were locked up when they were 18. So you can imagine there's a chunk of their life is missing. Yeah. And so the skills, the life skills, those soft skills, understanding how to even pay bills. A lot of these young guys that come in and they say to some of the counselors, I don't even know how to pay my bill. I don't know what you're supposed to do. And so these are some of the traumas that we're dealing with every day with individuals that look like us, because these guys, and I'm going to say this to be transparent, these aren't guys that look like they're quote unquote how addicts or the stigma of how these people look. These are guys that are polished, well groomed. Some of them look as if they could be Lil Wayne's brother. But a lot of it goes back to what's going on in our community. A lot of the young girls, they gravitate to these guys because, again, you cannot tell from looking at a person that they have suffered some type of trauma, mental illness, or they have an addiction. And so when you think of it, there's these individuals that are at our facility we're dealing with every day. However, then they're out in the community dealing with these younger girls, dealing with their wives, dealing with girlfriends. And now they're continuing a cycle because they're having other kids and they're procreating. However, they haven't first stopped to say, I need help myself before I start this procreation cycle. And so in it, there's so much of what we see in our Black communities. And at times, I'm going to be honest, it really touches us because, again, we start to really see this cycle. Because when you see so many individuals with just a felony charge, and now the system stops them from going out and becoming productive, because with the felony charge, you and I know, healthcare, they cannot go to work. They can't go to some of the jobs that we normally go to and we can make a nice living. So it almost pushes them back into this lifestyle of selling drugs. What they call it is hustling, quote unquote. And so with that, what we try to do is we partner with Affinia. We partner with, there's a couple other low income clinics we partner with, ESSA Health Clinic. And a lot of these guys, when they're coming out of jail, they have not had a physical exam in 6-7 months. There was a young man that I know, Dawn and I both know. he said to me he's had the same pain in his hip for, I think, over a year. And in that, unless there's someone advocating, I need you to go to this appointment. Let me pick up the phone for you. Let me have the appointment. Let me do these steps. Those little steps, they cannot do themselves. So what we try to do is have a community health worker available to navigate those steps for them, to process a Medicaid application for them, working to get those wraparound services. A lot of times we have to do transportation tickets. That's the part about our bus, our wellness van. We also partner with low income developments, McCormick Barron Properties. And so those are North Sarah Apartments, Murphy Park, you may have heard, all of those low income developments where there's Section 8, those young women, single mothers. That's where we partner and bring this mobile van, so that if there are services you need, maybe you can't get to Affinia, maybe you can't get to places out in Troy, but at least we can come to you. And I love the part with where Dawn is at Affinia, where there's other nurse practitioners at other community clinics, because again, these individuals need those wraparound services. When you think of a person who comes in and you say, oh, you're just addicted. No, they may have addiction. They may have depression they're dealing with, hypertension. We had a guy who he came in and he couldn't breathe. And I said to the probation officer, wait a minute, I have to first look at he can't breathe before I deal with addiction. Because if he can't breathe, then I mean, it's like, he's gonna be dead before I can even deal with your substance abuse addiction.
Exactly.
Turns out this guy had CHF, COPD, had a blood sugar of 400 and something, was sent automatically to BJC, was admitted for almost 7 days. So in this, these guys, there's so many people that have these underlying conditions that are being untreated. And so it's imperative, and I'll let Dawn speak, for us all to connect with each other, because not one person can do all the work. It takes, it's like they say, a village really to work together, but it also takes those that look like you and me that are willing to work in our communities. And that's something that I want to stress to Mr. McCain or Mr. McCain. I appreciate what you do, because there's so little Black men that are willing to be out there being that mentor, being the counselor, being that support for our men. And so I appreciate you for just doing that. We are out there looking for these men to come in to mentor these young guys that essentially have not had a father, have not had a mentor. And at this point in their life, they're looking for someone to just be that to them and take them by the hand and walk them step by step.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't want to just duplicate what Sabrina said, but I, as a clinician, that is my struggle. I am pursuing a psych NP because I have felt like that we deal with dual diagnoses, and that, being in substance abuse really was an eye opener of how serious our mental health services, the lack of mental health services in our community. And it is important to have people like yourself, Mr. McCain, to be there as a resource. And sometimes, they do need a nudge, but it doesn't come from our white counterparts, unfortunately, and they don't see the whole picture. Again, they are labeled, and there's so much stigma. Oh, they're just an addict, or they're just a thug, or they're just a drug dealer, but we don't really deal with the root of it. And one of the things that I have tried to incorporate in my practices, which is why, you know, I am very fluid in addiction medicine, and that I don't mind sending those patients to the Sabrinas of the world, because I know that they may not be able to get to my clinic to see me in person. But starting in addiction medicine was kind of a fluke for me, in a sense, in that it was really, I was supposed to provide medical exams to these patients. But what I found is that there was, yes, high blood pressure, diabetes, but there was also a very, very high need for mental health. And so my biggest thing is, okay, where do they go? You know, Sabrina jumped in there, got her psych NP, and is doing WalkNFaith Ministries. But even as a nurse practitioner in a clinic with the facility that we have one, maybe we have two psychiatrists, but there's a 3-month wait. Where do I send my patients, especially our Black men who are reluctant to seek treatment? And when they finally agree to it, they go and they was like, that girl don't know nothing, or it's a white person, you know, to be honest. And if she may be in her 20s just getting out of school, or even the 50-year-old, you know, male or female clinician, and they already have this preconceived notion of who this person is before they walk through the door, and try to tell them who they are, you know, in a sense, that our patients just don't relate to that. My question for you, sir, is where do I send my patients? What is there a network? Because I've gone on Psychology Today, I've emailed people, and this is personal question and a professional question, because I have a 15-year-old Black boy who has dealt with some traumas, you know, his own self, and I have had a heck of a time trying to find, you know, a clinician. The only one that I can speak of verbatim who I felt like was very awesome was Mr. Marvin Miller, and I thought, Mr. Miller, surely you're not the only one, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna pause and let you see, is there a network? Can you put it in the chat? Can we send it to Dr. Muhammad? Can we send this out, or is there a network of professionals that as a professional I can send my patients to, who may or may not have resources or access to your services, sir?
Yes, there is the Black Psychologist group I'm a part of also. A lot of the clinicians, there are not that many that are in private practice, but there are a few. There are a few, and we're, you know, the biggest thing I'm sure with all of our affinity groups that we deal with is mentorship. And I like how Ramona said, training the trainer, because for a lot of our clinicians, and it's not just in mental health, it's across all of the different professions, it's how, you know, oftentimes we're taught to go to school. You know, okay, so you go and graduate high school, go to someone's college, go to someone's graduate program. But after you get done with school, you have to be mentored. Okay, how do you do this? Because one of the things in all of our professions that I'm sure that all of us are familiar with is burnout is very high. Burnout is very high. I always tell them it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so, yes, if you jump out there and you don't have good, you know, mentors and people surrounding you, how do I create and make this a career? How do I make this a career? How do I not burn myself out? Because, you know, if we don't do that, you can be a great clinician, but your shelf life is only 5 years, 10 years, you know? And so we want to expand our career prospects to the 20, 30, 40 years, you know, when we start thinking that. So it's important for all of us to bring, you know, new clinicians in, give them the training, show them how to do this job and do it well.
Yeah, absolutely. This conversation today, I absolutely think has helped so many people. And again, we're not just talking about the patient, we're talking about clinicians, because when I think of our patients growing up, that little Black girl or boy in the hood, where we grew up at, they need every single one of us on this call, from the provider, from somebody that's advocating them and telling them about, hey, look at this trauma that you may be going through in your life, to a mentor like Mr. McCain, from a Black male perspective, and to those people that didn't make it and they started to use substance abuses. Now, how can we help you get out of that? So again, back to exactly what Mia said at the beginning of the call, it takes a village. And our discussion today really shows that it truly does take a village to get our people to where they need to be, health-wise, emotional wise, all of the above. So I just love it. We can go on for probably about 2 more days talking about that. We might need a session 2, but I'm gonna go ahead and I want all of you guys to tell us where we can get your services from. So I'll start with Mr. McCain first. So tell us where we can purchase your books. And also where they can come see you if they got some trauma, and us professionals too, where can we go to come and see you and get some help? And then I'll let Ramona and also Sabrina, you guys, and tell us where we can get your products as well.
Definitely. You can find me on the web. It's www.kmgroup-stl, like St. Louis.com. So www.kmgroup, all one word, -stl, like St. Louis.com. The phone number is 314-956-0547. Our offices are on 4863 Lindell Boulevard in the Central West End, St. Louis.
All right, and where we gonna get that book? Because I got my copy. Everybody else needs a copy. I got my copy.
They can go to the website.
Okay, all right.
On the website.
Good.
I'm getting the book and I'm calling you. So my name's Dawn Patrick. Remember me, Mr. McCain, because I'm gonna be calling you personally.
Well, definitely. That's what I'm here for.
All right. Okay, Miss Ramona, where can they? She, she's didn't tell you all her background, but RamonaSpeaks.com. You need to talk about all that. Okay, so where can they find you, Miss Ramona?
Well, there you go. RamonaSpeaks.com is my website. You can find me on Facebook, Ramona Jones, Ramona E. Jones. I'm going to be posting more, especially this month. And I've been on a journey myself of just healing the inner healing, but now it's time for me to start stepping out and sharing some of this love. So just keep your eyes open and watch my site. And I'm right now working with another fearless visionary on learning group facilitation and being pushed out there to really, start giving back to our community, because it's really on my heart. And all of you, speaking today on what you're doing is so awesome, and it's really inspiring me to really, put some fire up under me to come on out there and do some more of this community, building and community work, because it is needed. So RamonaSpeaks.com, you can find the books on Amazon.com as well.
Yes, and our personal website. Shout out to the 18 Fearless Visionaries and Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock, our fearless leader. So yeah, get our book. I got extra copies at home, so if you need it, hit me up. All right, Miss Sabrina, where that van is rolling through St. Louis, where is it stopping next? How can they jump on?
All right, so it's www.WalkNFaith, is WALK, the letter N, FAITH.org. And also we have 2 offices, one in North County we just opened. It's 2386 North Highway 67. And that is right across from Target. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Florissant. Target, Panera Bread, Medicine Shop is a partner of ours. And so when they go to this clinic, they will have access to their medications through the Medicine Shop. We have nurse practitioners that will be providing hydration therapy, which is going to be something new. I am soliciting other nurse practitioners who want to come PRN and join in the fund.
What that
Mia,
job
I'll
looking
get you-
call me.
Put your number in the chat. Also, this is new, and I'm saying this for Dawn. We just finalized a clinic in Belleville, Illinois. This is two other practitioners we're working with, and we'll have this open in June. So we are open. We're moving around. I know. Keep us in your prayers. We have 2 audits coming up this month. We have the State Department of Mental Health, our audit for our certification completely, which we are just ecstatic that we're going to get this certification for substance abuse, adult substance use, as well as mental health services. Also, we have our audit for United States probation and parole. And this is our second audit. We have had this contract for a year, and we are looking to expand this contract to various areas, and also East St. Louis, Belleville. So this is something that we really, when I say we are soliciting nurse practitioners, please come aboard and join the fund. We work with a psychiatrist who's our medical director, Dr. Joshua Calhoun. He is a board adult as well as adolescent psychiatrist. So in that, we have someone that could collaborate with you if you are in St. Louis. So please take my number and text me or call if you're looking for any PRN work.
There we go. And Mia about to tell all these nurses in the St. Louis and East Side area, how can they connect with the BNA of Greater St. Louis? Because this is what we do. We bring the connections. We got job postings. We're going to tell you about books. We're going to tell you about your health. So Mia, tell them where they can reach out and find us and become involved and be a member.
Absolutely. So our website is www.bna-stlewis.org. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We're on LinkedIn at BNA Greater St. Louis. Our chapter meetings are the 4th Saturday of the month. Right now we're rolling via Zoom. We'll have a new meeting location soon. Check out our website and our social media for all of those links and updates.
Absolutely. So to all my nurses, because it's Nurses Month again, thank you for everything that you do in our communities, at work, and even in your own home, because I know a lot of you guys are going to work every day, but then coming home, taking care of your loved ones. And we're going to start charging for all the advice, and y'all calling, what's this bump on me? We're going to start charging. No, we're not. We're going to give you, because that's why we are nurses, because we have those nursing hearts and we want to help everybody. So thank you guys for all that you do in the community. We love you. We know y'all out there working hard, so keep up the good work. And if you're in the St. Louis area, make sure you come and join the BNA. Go, like Mia said, go on our website, find out how to join us, because we need your help. As you can see, it's a lot of work to do and we need you. So thank you for tuning in to the President's Podcast. So tune in every second Wednesday of the month on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Spotify and Anchor, wherever you get your podcast information. So thanks again to all my guests on the show. This was absolutely wonderful. You educated us so much and educated the community. So thank you guys for taking time out your day to join us. So tune in next time, you guys, because we are all things up the pulse. All things nursing in the loop. Thank you.